This is Earth in all its glory as seen from the International Space Station. Fewer than 300 people have ever witnessed this view. For two astronauts, that visit to the ISS lasted much longer than expected. So much of space exploration is calculated down to the smallest fraction of time, the millisecond, and large, almost inconceivable distances. There's a reason we're drawn to the human exploration of space. It is about engineers and scientists making the impossible possible. And yet with all the expertise in the world, very often the unforeseen can still happen. Meet Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, NASA astronauts who were chosen to blast off on a first-of-its-kind flight on Boeing's Starliner spaceship. A high-stress and high-stakes mission. Boeing is in a fight for space relevance with arch-rival SpaceX, and it is years behind. Both companies received NASA contracts in 2014 to take crews to and from the space station.
Ignition, liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX.
SpaceX beat Boeing to the punch in 2020.
America has launched.
Before taking part in this critical human test flight for Boeing, Williams and Wilmore said they were ready for the challenge.
This is where the rubber meets the road, where we are going to leave this planet, and that is pretty darn cool.
We're about to launch on Boeing Starliner and broaden the capability to and from space station that our agency has, and that's vitally important.
The astronauts have worked closely with Boeing on Starliner.
This is human spaceflight. You know, that adage you've heard since Apollo 13, failure's not an option.
Failure in space travel can be fatal. 17 astronauts have died in the line of duty. NASA's first attempt of a crewed Apollo flight ended in tragedy in 1967, when a fire engulfed the module on the launch pad during a pre-flight test. And then in 1986,
the space program experienced a national tragedy with the explosion of the Space Shuttle Challenger approximately a minute and a half after launch from here at the Kennedy Space Center.
More recently, the Columbia disaster in 2003 killed 7 when the shuttle disintegrated as it re-entered the Earth's atmosphere after being damaged during launch. A year after that disaster, President George W. Bush announced plans to retire the shuttle, but not to end space travel.
And liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery, returning to the space station.
NASA went on to launch a program to encourage private sector efforts to develop spacecraft to safely carry astronauts to and from the station. The original plan for this test mission was to demonstrate the Boeing Starliner's capabilities by sending Williams and Wilmore to space for 10 days.
It's a test pilot's dream, if you will. Everything that we're doing from start to finish and have been involved with, and it's a great seat to be in.
It's going to be super exciting. I really cannot wait till we see Space Station through the window. That would be super cool.
Delays have plagued Starliner space programs since the beginning. In 2019, Starliner's first attempt at an uncrewed journey to the station failed.
Liftoff. Release. Engine at full thrust. We've cleared the tower.
So we did have, obviously, some challenges today. The spacecraft separated from the launch vehicle. We did not get the orbital insertion burn that we were hoping for. It appears as though the mission elapsed timing system had an error in it, and that anomaly resulted in the vehicle believing that the time was different than it actually was.
3 years later, success, with an uncrewed mission reaching the station.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Starliner is headed back to space on the shoulders of Atlas, powered by a workforce dedicated to its success.
We
we have confirmation of a good MET epic timer on Starliner.
But then the crewed launch was indefinitely delayed in June of 2023 after it was found that adhesive tape used to wrap wiring inside the spacecraft could be flammable. And there were also issues with the parachute system. Finally, in the spring of 2024, Boeing was ready to try again. An initial launch date of May 6th was announced, but pushed back due to an issue with a rocket valve. Then a helium leak was discovered. Work on that issue continued to push back blastoff again and again. But despite the delays, Wilmore and Williams felt confident.
Does this spaceship feel like it's ready for prime time?
I think at this juncture, we are ready. I mean, the delays are part of the developmental process. I feel like we're ready to go, and the spacecraft is ready to go.
Yes, that's the short answer. Absolutely yes. That's the long answer. It's ready. We wouldn't fly until we're ready. Now we're ready.
Finally, on June 5th.
Status check. Go Atlas. Go Centaur. Go Starliner. Godspeed, Butch and Suni.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
A successful launch from Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral's Space Force Station.
And liftoff of Starliner at Atlas V, carrying 2 American heroes, drawing a line to the stars for all of us.
But the glow of that success soon dimmed. As Williams and Wilmore made their way to the ISS, NASA said it had identified 3 helium leaks. Then the next day, as Starliner approached the International Space Station, the issues mounted.
The crew lifted off yesterday at 9:52 a.m. Central Time and is currently about 200 meters away from the International Space Station and holding.
An initial docking attempt called off after problems were discovered with 5 of the 28 thrusters. The thrusters on the lower portion of the spacecraft are used to make small changes to its trajectory, needed for moments like this when it closes in on the space station and then for a safe return to Earth.
Now less than 3 meters away from the International Space Station. Good performance calls coming from teams in Mission Control.
Starliner at 1.5 meters away, currently about 25 seconds from docking. 0.5 meters.
Contact capture. We see the same.
At 12:34 p.m. Central Time above the southern Indian Ocean, we have confirmation of contact and capture of NASA's Boeing crew flight test and Starliner aboard the International Space Station. Butch and Suni have made their arrival.
Okay, indeed. Nice to be attached to the big city in the sky.
Then, finally, after years of work, the 2 astronauts received a warm welcome on the ISS.
Lots of cheering here in the room, big hugs. Suni Williams coming through in her blue flight suit. And followed shortly behind by Commander of Starliner, Butch Wilmore. Now back on the space station, the 3rd visit for both astronauts and the first crewed flight test of the Starliner spacecraft.
It was a historic moment for this mission.
I just want to say a big thanks to family and friends who've lived this for a long time. And I think you're glad we're not with you anymore. And we have another family up here, which is just awesome. Like Butch said, it was such a great welcome, little dance party, and that's the way to get things going. And we're just happy as can be to be up in space.
Let's go forward into Starliner, where there was a little bit of action the other day. So I'm going to lead you down through the PMA 2 into Starliner.
Suni Williams grew up in a small town outside of Boston in Needham, Massachusetts. She attended the Naval Academy and then went on to test pilot school. First selected as an astronaut in 1998, she went to space in 2007 and 2012, spending 322 days in orbit.
Here is the hatch that was our hatch where we had our centerline camera, which helped us dock to the International Space Station. It was actually in the spot where Butch is, right here. And now, there's Butch coming in through the hatch.
Butch Wilmore, who spent his childhood in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, entered the Navy after university, before being selected for test pilot school. He joined NASA's astronaut program in 2000, logging 178 days in space during trips to the ISS in 2009 and 2014.
It looks probably a little cramped, and it's actually fairly roomy for just Suni and myself, with just the two of us. Obviously, you don't need a large cockpit, so it's actually sized perfectly for us.
Now aboard the ISS, the work for Williams and Wilmore continued, testing Starliner and its systems and taking part in those question and answer sessions.
It's great to come here and visit, and great to come here and visit for extended periods of time. But Earth is where home is. Earth is where family is. Earth is where we build a lot of those memories and working together to get here and go other places.
Engineers were evaluating the problems with Starliner's thrusters and assessing the impact of those helium leaks. As the return date of June 18th approached, NASA announced it was pushing that date back by a couple of days to investigate the problems. Then, on June 28th, mission managers said they would no longer give a return date for Starliner at all until more testing was completed, and they insisted no one was actually stuck in space.
I want to make it very clear that Butch and Suni are not stranded in space. Our plan is to continue to return them on Starliner and return them home at the right time.
More than a week later, that right time was still not clear, but Williams and Wilmore were optimistic.
I have a real good feeling in my heart that the spacecraft will bring us home, no problem.
It is still billions of dollars over budget, years behind schedule. It seems it's been snake bit at every turn. Are you confident in the performance of the ship for future missions as well?
This is the world of test. This is a tough business that we're in. Human spaceflight is not easy. Failure is not an option. That's why we are staying here now.
Finally, in August of 2024, on day 80 of what was supposed to be a 10-day mission, NASA announced Williams and Wilmore would not be returning on Starliner and would not be coming back to Earth anytime soon.
I miss my two dogs, I miss my friends, but you know what? Like Butch said, there are so many people on Earth that are sending us messages, and it makes you feel just right at home with everybody when we're able to have those conversations with our friends and family at home. So I know they understand. I know it's tough on them as well.
My daughter's, I'm going to miss most of her senior year in high school, my youngest daughter. And my oldest daughter is a sophomore at East Texas Baptist University, and I wasn't able to be with her during the summer. But like I said earlier, we've tried to teach them the principles that are important and let them understand that trials, however you judge what a trial might be, makes you stronger. And in that respect, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that, it's played out the way it has.
Just a beautiful sight as Starliner makes its way to the sands of New Mexico.
Just about midnight Eastern Time on September 6, 2024, Starliner's 3 main chutes lit up the night sky over New Mexico.
You're seeing the ground there in your screen as we get closer. Touchdown. Starliner is back on Earth.
The spaceship, originally going for a 10-day mission to the space station, finally landed back on Earth 3 months later, but without its crew. Top engineers at Boeing and NASA had what were described as tense exchanges over the helium leaks and the thruster problems with Starliner. Could they bring the crew home safely on Starliner? In the end, NASA voted no.
I would say anytime you're in a meeting of this magnitude where there's this kind of decision, there is some tension in the room.
Haunted by the Columbia disaster, mission managers decided not to risk bringing the crew back on Starliner.
The decision to keep Butch and Suni aboard the International Space Station and bring the Boeing Starliner home uncrewed is a result of a commitment to safety.
Astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams were now staying in space until at least February. meaning many missed events and obligations back home. Thanksgiving.
Say happy Thanksgiving to all our friends and family who are down on earth and everyone who is supporting us.
Christmas, New Year's, birthdays, and kids' events, and a very delayed reunion with their families.
We're both, Navy. We've both been on deployments. We're not surprised when deployments gets changed. I mean, our families extended. Our families are used to that as well. So that's not a humongous surprise.
Before we launched, we said we're going to find things. That is the nature of test. Every single test flight, especially a first flight of a spacecraft or an aircraft that has ever occurred, has found issues. That's things you just cannot think about. 90% of our training is preparing for the unexpected.
And liftoff. Crew 9. Go SpaceX, go Falcon, go NASA.
On September 28th, Boeing's competitor SpaceX launched Crew 9, leaving 2 empty seats on board for Williams and Wilmore to use for their return home. New spacesuits were brought up for the astronauts since their Boeing suits could not be used in a SpaceX ship. And since they trained in the Starliner, they had to learn the SpaceX systems while they were already in orbit.
We're going to launch as a 2-person crew, and then we're going to land as a 4-person crew. And one of the unique challenges of that is how do we integrate the other 2 crew members into the Dragon operations when they've had very minimal Dragon training before they launched. That's going to be top priority when we get there. And while we have a period of handover, the first week or so is having that dedicated time to help them understand what they're going to need to do to operate as part of the Crew 9 crew.
When Williams and Wilmore blasted off back in June, they'd left their suitcases behind because at the last minute, NASA had to lose weight in order to add a critical piece to fix a toilet on the station. They initially borrowed clothes from other crew members on station until their own belongings were sent up on a cargo ship. Over many months, they received essentials and much more.
I like Indian food, so they actually sent up some Indian food that all you got to do is put in the heater. Or like at home, you'd put it in the microwave.
In November, internet speculation about the health of both astronauts. Suni Williams, now the ISS commander, spoke to NBC's Lester Holt about the concerns.
Hey, we're feeling good, working out, eating right. It's just awesome, and we have a lot of fun up here too, so, people are worried about us. Really, don't worry about us.
And of course, the capsule you came up on was sent back without a crew. Did a part of you wish you could be on it as it made its return to Earth?
You betcha. It's a pretty unique opportunity to land a spacecraft for the first time, and part of our testing was to see how all of that undocking, deorbit burn, entry and landing would have been. Do
you still have confidence in the technology that brought you there, and would you get on a Starliner again, tomorrow if you were asked?
Tomorrow might be a little bit too early. We learned a lot of lessons from our flight, but the spacecraft is really a solid spacecraft. It has so many capabilities, so maybe not tomorrow because we have to incorporate some of the lessons learned, but as soon as we see that we're on the right path and we've made some of the fixes to some of the issues that we had, absolutely.
In mid-December, NASA pushed back the February return date yet again, this time to late March. SpaceX Crew 9 needed to wait until Crew 10 arrived at the station before Crew 9 could leave. But delays with a new SpaceX Dragon capsule were impacting that timeline. In the new year, Williams and Wilmore got a chance to briefly leave the station, undertaking a spacewalk to fix a faulty radio communications system.
The International Space Station is currently flying just south of London. On the top left side of your screen, you can see NASA astronaut Suni Williams on the Canadarm2 robotic arm as she makes her way to the next work site to continue the removal of the radio frequency group. Taking Suni Williams over to her next work site.
While out on the 5.5-hour walk, Williams set a historic record.
I see you moving. I'm out.
And this beautiful view coming to you live from the International Space Station, that is NASA astronaut Suni Williams. She is EV1 with the red stripes.
She has now spent more time in the vacuum of space than any other woman. Even with all the hours logged amidst the stars, they both admitted feeling Earth's pull.
Eventually, we want to go home because we left our families a little while ago, but we have a lot to do while we're up here. We've got to get all that stuff done before we go home.
I want to hug my wife. I want to hug my daughters. Gone longer than we planned. That'll be a special homecoming.
The final countdown to that homecoming was on.
And you see at the hatchway the 4 departing Crew 9 crew members posing for some final photos.
With a wave and a kiss, Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore bid farewell to the International Space Station. At 1:05 a.m. Eastern on March 18th, their SpaceX Dragon capsule undocked.
And undocking confirmed. Freedom is free of its moorings. Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore begin their belated trip home.
Separation confirmed.
After 286 days in space, the 2 astronauts finally headed back to Earth.
Crew 9's going home.
They got the all clear to return, along with fellow Crew 9 commander astronaut Nick Hague and cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov, after their relief team, Crew 10, arrived at the ISS.
Right there, have our first view of Dragon Freedom coming home to Earth.
Then, roughly 17 hours after their goodbye to space, Crew 9 was re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. Wilmore described what that moment felt like.
It's thrilling. It's amazing. I remember thinking about the structure of the capsule and the stresses that it was taking, that was ongoing as the drogues came out, and the whole capsule starts shaking and twisting, and thinking about the stresses taking place and going, "Wow, I hope those cables hold." And then the parachutes open up, and then you're like, I've said it many times, there's not a better feeling returning from space that the parachutes open and work.
Williams and Wilmore's surprisingly long mission grabbed the world's attention, and now all eyes were on their final descent.
And we're going to stand by for splashdown, located in the Gulf of America, off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
And splashdown, Crew 9 back on Earth.
Splashdown. Good main release.
Copy splashdown. We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch, Suni, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
13 days after the return to Earth, I sat down with Williams and Wilmore, as well as Crew 9 commander Nick Hague. What's it like to be home?
Wonderful.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
When you finally got your feet on the ground and you finally saw your families, what's the first thing you wanted to do? I'm sure give them all a hug, but then what?
We landed at Ellington. Our families came on board the aircraft, and there were a group of people that were there, some of the ones that we asked to be there, that were instrumental in getting us to the space station. And I wanted to get out there and hug their necks and thank them face to face for their efforts over decades preparing for this mission that resulted in them getting us safely to the space station.
Where did you go when you were finally back home? What did you go do?
Yeah, crew quarters. Yeah, it was time to sleep. It's fatigue. Gravity makes you tired, very tired. So it was time to go and get some rest.
It was a long day, and so sleep was great, and it was just really nice to lay down in a bed. We hadn't done that for many months, and so actually to just sit down and just fall back felt really awesome.
Did you sleep okay that first night in a bed?
Oh, heck yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you ever feel abandoned up there? Did you ever feel that NASA, the White House, anybody had abandoned you?
Felt abandoned? No. I mean, I didn't think about those type of things. We were busy. We were focused on our mission from day one until we came back, and that was our primary focus. I understand the rhetoric that was taking place. I understand the reason for it. We did not involve ourselves in it at all. We're aware of it somewhat as the days and the weeks went on, but it was never something that we focused on or was any part of our conversations even, that we felt that way. So no, because we came up with a plan and prepared to deviate from that plan, and that's exactly what we enacted. All that preparation we did for all the various things that we wound up doing over the next 10 months we enacted that plan.
The we that he's talking about is not Butch and Suni.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
we is a huge amount of people that we knew and we trust down here at Johnson Space Center, at NASA, all over the world for the International Space Station, that were coming up with a plan. I was super humbled by knowing that people down here were focusing on that part of the mission. We just, pressed on to do our job that we were, trained to do.
It has been an epic space saga for Williams and Wilmore. Never before has a 10-day test flight turned into a 9+ month mission. But the unexpected stay also had the unexpected benefit of drawing attention to space exploration.
Building and working on the International Space Station was just awesome. We also have bigger goals of exploring our solar system, going back to the moon, going on to Mars. And to get people understanding that it is hard, it is difficult, and what we do up there is really awesome. We had a little bit of that came with the interest in this mission. And if we can perpetuate that and tell people a little bit more and have the opportunity, the forum to do that, I'm very thankful for that.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.